and welcome to the next masterclass, which is going to be all about ducking as declarer. Now, this is a really useful topic to cover because it can be very difficult to know whether you're supposed to be winning a trick or not. But for those of you who've never heard the term ducking before or feel a bit unsure, I'll just give you a brief overview first of all about what ducking is. And then I'll talk about the reasons why ducking might be a good idea, and then reasons why it might be a less good idea. Also have a bit of a side note that this is going to refer to both no trump and suit contracts, so always be a little bit aware about the kind of contract that you're playing, because it might affect your reasons for wanting to duck or not duck. So first of all, what is ducking? It's a bit of a funny word because it makes you think of birds, but it just means you're deliberately losing a trick that you could have won, or sometimes it means you could have attempted to win. You might have also heard the term holding up. Now, the confusion with that is that ducking can be a trick that you've started or one that the opponent started, but holding up is always where the opponent started the trick. So they're almost interchangeable, but the hold up is a bit more restricted. And why might you want to do such a thing? It seems really strange because in bridge, the aim is to win tricks, as many as you can. So why would you deliberately choose to lose a trick? And the answer is that sometimes it's actually more beneficial and results in more tricks if you deliberately lose one particular trick. So let's talk about those reasons. The first reason is to sever communication between the defenders. Sometimes you might hear this as cutting communications between the defenders. It's exactly the same thing. Now here's an example. We are playing in no trumps and we know that our left-hand opponent has overcalled one heart. So you, in your privileged position, can see all four hands. And sure enough, you can see that left-hand opponent has a nice 5-card heart suit, and we have 3 small in the dummy and just the ace in our hand. Now, because we only have one stop in the suit, we want to be a little bit careful about whether we win it, because once that stop is gone, it's gone for good. So let's think. If we win the ace straight away, it doesn't really matter what happens later on in the hand. Right-hand opponent will always have another heart in their hand to play to their partner. And when their partner gets a heart led to them, they're going to be able to take 4 tricks in the suit. However, if we choose to duck, then we can allow right-hand opponent to win a trick later because they won't have any hearts left. So we duck the first round, we win the second, and then at that point, right-hand opponent has played both of their hearts and they can't play any to their partner's hand. So that's what it means by having communication between the defenders. It's them being able to reach each other's hands. You may also have heard a handy rule called the rule of 7, which can give you a clue about how many times you're supposed to be ducking. What you do is you add the number of cards that you have in the suit between your hand and the dummy. Here it's 6. And you take that away from 7. And that gives you 1. And that means that you should duck once. Now, if you prefer to remember it using the rule of 7, that's perfectly fine. It's a bit more of a guideline than the rule, but to explain the rationale behind it, the idea is that you're going to be thinking about the splits that might be dangerous. So here we know that a 5-2 split will cause a problem because that will mean that left-hand opponent can cash 4 heart tricks. And whereas if there were a 4-3 split, we wouldn't be concerned at all because we would know that they would only have 3 winners in hearts. So there's no point in ducking twice because that only voids right-hand opponent in the suit if they have 3 cards. We're concerned about the case where they have 2. So we win on the second round to account for that. Another example of the same reason, this one is in suit contract, specifically spades. So now we've got two suits to look at. On this hand, the opponents have once again led the King of Hearts. We know that they've overcalled in the suit. And what's going to happen if we win and what's going to happen if we duck? If we win the Ace of Hearts straight away, what we're going to want to do is draw trumps. So we'll win the Ace of Hearts, we'll play a top trump, and now right-hand opponent will be able to win the Ace of Trumps, play a second heart to their partner's hand, and now get a heart ruff. Yes, dummy can ruff a heart, fine, but the not fine news is that right-hand opponent has the 10, and dummy's highest spade is the 8. So it's not going to be enough, and that will involve losing a heart trick, a spade trick, and with the ace, and the 10 of spades as well as a ruff. That's already 3 tricks when we only had to lose 2. How does ducking help? So let's say instead you choose to lose the first trick. Then, when they play another one, you win the second trick, and you can safely play the King of Trumps. And then when right-hand opponent wins, they don't have any hearts to play back to their partner's hand, and they can't get that ruff. Another reason to duck is to keep the safe hand on lead. Let's have a look at an example to see what I mean by that. So here we're playing in spades. We can't see the spade layout, but we can see 2 other suits. We can see hearts and diamonds. And left-hand opponent has led the Queen of Hearts. And we have the ace, but it's not clear that our 10 is going to be of much use. Who knows? Now look at this diamond layout. As it is, left-hand opponent can't safely play diamonds, because if they play the ace, then we can follow low and our king becomes a trick. Or if they play a lower card, we can win the king straight away. So if left-hand opponent plays a diamond first, then they always have to give us a trick. Whereas if right-hand opponent plays a diamond, then they're playing through our king, and we're stuck in this position where we have to work out whether to play our king. And if we do, it will get squashed by the ace, and if we don't, then the queen will win, and then the ace will drop our king. So that would be very bad news for us. Now, how are these things related? So one of the things that we need to think about is assigning names to these opponents. So we are now going to dub them safe hand and danger hand. Safe hand is the one that can't play diamonds through us, and the danger hand is the one that can. So while the safe hand is on lead, we are actually quite content to leave them on lead and let them win their queen, and they can't hurt us. Whereas if they decided that maybe right-hand opponent decided to play the king, then we would need to win the trick to stop them from winning. They actually can't safely do that because we have the 10 today. But okay, so if we win the Ace of Hearts, it's going to happen at some point in the hand. Right-hand opponent will be able to win the King of Hearts. It's always an entry. And then they'll be able to play a diamond through the king. But what we can do instead is we can duck until right-hand opponent is forced to play the king. We don't have to worry about the hearts getting ruffed because we already know that left-hand opponent doesn't have the king from the lead. So we know that right-hand opponent has to follow suit until we see the king. Another reason to duck, this one is a little bit of a famous one, creating a tennis in the suit. Remember we talked about tennises a couple of masterclasses ago, but basically they are a pair of honours with a gap between, where if the opponents played into the tennis, they would give us a cheap trick. And that will therefore mean that left-hand opponent cannot play the suit safely. So they sort of become the safe hand. Now, there's a famous example of this, the Bath coup. Lots of people have heard of this one, but if you haven't, then it's worth knowing. So, classic example, we have ace jack to 3 in our hand, opposite 3 low in the dummy. Left-hand opponent leads the king. And now, if we win the trick, we're in a position where right-hand opponent can just play a club through, and our jack will never take a trick. But if we duck the trick, left-hand opponent can't play the suit anymore. If he chooses to play the queen, we can squash it and our jack becomes a winner. Or if he chooses to play low instead, then our jack just wins straight away. That means that left-hand opponent is actually supposed to switch, and that leaves us with an extra stop, which is completely intact, and the suit can't be attacked anymore. So that's really good, especially in no trumps for timing reasons. You might wonder, well, what if they just continue the suit because they think their partner has the jack? Most defenders do have ways of telling each other whether they have the jack, so please don't rely on the opponents making a mistake. It's better to duck. Okay, we've looked at reasons to not duck, and now, we've looked at reasons to duck, and now we're going to look at reasons to not duck. So reason 1 is if you are already wide open in a different suit or potentially just afraid of a switch. So here's an example where we're playing in no trumps. We are pretty wide open in those clubs, and the opponents have led a heart, which you can't really blame them for. But if we give them the opportunity to communicate with each other, then right-hand opponent can say, please, no, don't play hearts. And left-hand opponent will get an opportunity to play clubs. So although they might not do it, you don't want to take the risk. So don't let them potentially fix their mistake. If they do play a club, it goes ace of clubs, and then king of clubs, and queen of clubs, and they take 2 more clubs, and they've taken 6 tricks. So don't duck. Another reason that you potentially should not duck is if the opponents might get to ruff one of your winners if you duck. So this is specifically for suit contracts, of course. And let's say there's an example where left-hand opponent has opened 3 hearts, diamonds are trumps, and you get the king of hearts lead, very common. If you choose to duck the trick, it might look like it's completely harmless, but what will happen next is left-hand opponent will play a second heart, you play your ace, and then right-hand opponent can ruff it. So remember to always double check what you know about the hand. You know that left-hand opponent has 7 hearts because they've opened 3 hearts, so you therefore know that right-hand opponent only has 1. So not safe to duck, otherwise it will get ruffed. Now that you're full of ducking wisdom, please go to the tournament and try playing the deals, see how you get on, and I will see you for an explanation after each one. Take care, everyone. Bye!